after doing a lot of checking, I just bought a Cadillac Lyric Sport. And you talk about interiors, the interior is spectacular. And it's got a 325-mile range, which still does not make it suitable for long road trips. And I'm not about to stand in line for 4 or 5 hours waiting my turn at a charging station, which is, I think, the thing that makes EVs still kind of a local proposition. When we get 600-mile batteries or 700-mile batteries, that issue is going to go away. But at present, it's still there. But the Lyric is an absolutely outstanding vehicle, and in the first quarter, it outsold all of the German luxury EVs, that's BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen combined. So the public is accepting it um, in a big way. That's an outstanding vehicle.
Well, there's no doubt, Bob, from a product standpoint, the Lyric is outstanding, no question. But I'm a little surprised to see you with an electric, with some of your comments in the past.
Well, electrics are at the beginning of their evolution. We've got 120 years of internal combustion. It's near perfect. The fuel is, if gasoline hadn't been invented, we should invent it now because it has such high energy density. But there's a lot of advantages to EVs, which are not yet fully realized because we have to wait for battery technology, which it will. I mean, battery breakthroughs are on the horizon, and in 2 or 3 years, we'll have, in fact, LUTZ has a 600-mile battery today. Nobody knows about it.
In general, are you gas, hybrid, or electric?
I'm for whatever is a great vehicle. And I think, as I said, to me, electric vehicles have become politicized. The climate change fanatics and the save the earthers and the left wing of the Democratic Party, et cetera, are all in on electrics, and conservatives have taken a hardcore position, like it's almost become like the Second Amendment. Nobody's going to take my gas-powered car away from me. And that's ridiculous. It's not a political issue. The mistake the governments around the world made is try to force the technology faster than the consumer was willing to adopt it, and faster than the technology made the stuff really good. And so we're not going to have like an overnight switch into electrics, which the media 3 years ago thought was going to happen. Everybody's next vehicle was going to be electric.
Well, even Mercedes said after a date, I think 24 or 5, that we were going to have no more gas. But
GM has said the same thing, but has kind of backpedaled on it a little bit, which is smart. Because you cannot violate the market. The market is the market. And electric vehicles will gradually increase their percentages. And in another 10 years' time, we may see 25% of the market electric. In 30 years' time, it may be 50%, but it's going to be a gradual transition. Now, will it happen? I believe absolutely, because in so many ways, other than the range issue, but in so many ways, electric vehicles are simply vastly superior to gasoline. They're slick, they're silent, they have a lot fewer moving parts. Things like brakes don't deteriorate because the braking is mostly regenerative, and so forth. And right now, from a CO2 standpoint, this is the ridiculous thing. They do not. I keep trying to explain this to the climate fanatics. They don't save any CO2 because 85% of America's electric power is generated by fossil fuel. So whether the CO2 is created at the energy production plant or in the gasoline engine at the tailpipe, the planet doesn't care. CO2 is CO2. Now, at some point, we'll have clean nuclear energy, and then if we don't have to burn fossil fuel to charge our electric vehicles, then I will buy the argument that they produce less CO2.
And what about the diesel equipment mining the materials needed for the batteries? The diesel equipment used for mining the metals.
I mean, it depends how far up the chain you go. But even if you go no further than power generation, it's then you got transmission losses because the power has to be sent out. So there's a certain amount of loss. Then there's a certain amount of losses when it goes from your home power outlet into the electric vehicle. So at the end of the day, I've never seen a well to wheels comparison, but like fuel cells. Fuel cells are touted to be absolutely zero emissions. All that comes out of the tailpipe is water vapor, et cetera, et cetera. But they keep forgetting that hydrogen does not exist in a raw state. It's got to be created out of something. So separating the hydrogen from whatever it's attached to requires, guess what? Energy. And taking one form and creating another chemical form requires energy, and that basically requires creation of CO2. Secondly, fuel cell vehicles need the hydrogen compressed to 10,000 psi. Well, where does the power come from to compress all that hydrogen? So, General Motors, we actually did a well-to-wheels analysis of all of the fossil fuels and energy that are required to go into a fuel cell, and then did the miles per gallon equivalent. And it comes for fuel cells, best case, it comes out to about 65 miles per gallon. Well, that's a long way from zero. And even so, I think the 65 miles per gallon was calculated by the rabid fuel cell fanatics within General Motors, who, by the way, led us down a garden path of millions of fuel cell GM vehicles on the road by 2010, which, manifestly never happened for good reasons. And then fuel cells require all kinds of rare minerals like palladium and platinum and so forth. I mean, fuel cells I'm really down on. Battery electric vehicles I'm high on, but we've got to get the battery energy density up to where we have reliable, affordable, at least 600-mile batteries, and charging stations have to be more plentiful, more reliable, and charging times. With an internal combustion engine, you can put 350 miles into the tank in 5 minutes. Even with EV fast charging, you can do maybe 80 miles in 20 minutes. That's with today's fast chargers. And talking to people who own Rivians and Teslas, when they get up to a charging station, they're usually fourth or fifth in line, and they have to wait for everybody else to get their 80 miles. And I'm not going to sit there at some charging station for hours and hours waiting until it's my turn, and then in my 20 minutes I get my 80 miles. That just makes no sense for most people, and they're quite right.
I think some people, though, will get rich filming the arguments. Who's next in line when there's 5 in line?
Yeah. Well, it's been done. It's been done, and my friends who have waited in charging lines say that the atmosphere gets pretty surly And everybody's watching the other guy's car and saying, "You got your 80 miles, get out of here."
It reminds me of watching at a boat ramp with the husbands and wives yelling at each other, right?
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.